On today's Locked On Royals podcast, we're going to dive into a little bit of why swagger is important and why the Royals playing with such passion and camaraderie, more importantly, confidence, winning and losing in the grand scheme of baseball. Plus, the young kids are on fire again. We'll talk all about it coming up on today's Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your teams of today.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Royals podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into confidence in baseball and why it's important that these young guys are playing with such passion and swag. Lately, the Royals have been playing really well in the last month, and they're trying to continue to keep building upon that with this young team and with this young roster of guys who are going to be the reason why you get ushered into a new era of Royals baseball. I mean, you look up and down this roster right now of guys that you're relying on, guys who are a consistent component of your lineup. And you've got a rookie MJ Melendez, you've got a rookie Bobby Witt Jr., you've got a rookie Vinny Pasquantino, you've got a rookie Mac Maxey, you've got a rookie Nick Prado, you've got a rookie Kyle Isbell and Nate Eaton, and also even Brent Rooker as well. So this team is very young, but their presence on the field feels very large. These guys feel like they've been big leaguers for a long time in the sense of if you just watched them. I truly believe that if you took 20 random baseball fans who they've been watching baseball a long time, they love baseball, but maybe they have not checked in on the Royals just yet this season. And obviously, that probably is a large sum of baseball fans. If your team hasn't played the Royals yet, you probably haven't watched them. So you take that group of fans, I think if you put them down in front of a television and had them watch, tomorrow's game, and they didn't know the backstory of any player, they didn't know any player's name or anything, kind of a blind test of just watching how they play the sport, how they handle at-bats, how they handle clutch moments, how they handle high-pressurized situations. You have them go through that. I think that you would reach a point where those fans would think that these guys were older than they are. They play above their experience level to me. And a large part of that is due to their confidence. But before we get into that, I want to say right now, thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you talking Royals baseball. Also, check out Locked On Chiefs. First preseason game is on Saturday, so go get prepared for that with Locked On Chiefs. And today's show is brought to you by BlueNile.com. Folks, BlueNile.com is incredible. Make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com and go right now to Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Shop stress-free and forget about everything else besides BlueNile.com because you're going to get your forever piece at a stress-free clip by going to BlueNile.com today. I think that when you watch Bobby Witt Jr. and you watch MJ Melendez and you watch these young guys, but specifically those two, I think that you should feel very confident in the direction of this organization. Not just because that we can surmise from this season, their rookie years, that they're going to be really good and talented ball players, but because the confidence that they play with brings leadership. the confidence that Bobby Witt Jr. and MJ Melendez play with brings leadership, because if you look around in your clubhouse and you've got a guy named MJ Melendez who's hitting a leadoff home run and he's yelling, he's circling the bases, that's going to get you excited. You have a guy named MJ Melendez who is hitting, a go-ahead base hit, and on his way to first, he's looking in your dugout saying, "This is my house. This is my house." Doing those things to get you excited. It just goes the extra mile. You're always going to get excited if after a home run or a go-ahead hit, but doing the extra flourish is something that this team has missed, and you want to pick that guy up. You want to join in that fun. You want to be able to celebrate like him. You want to, it creates a sort of vibe of belief. And that was part of the Royals' problem at the beginning of the year. And I mean, you can interpret, the Whit Merrifield thing any way you want to, but the bottom line is that he got vaccinated the second he was traded to a contender. He could have made that decision back in April if he thought that the Royals could be a contender. He obviously did not think that they could be a contender. And he obviously, by watching him play this year and have the worst year of his career in every statistical category, both offensively and defensively, he obviously was checked out this year in Kansas City. He obviously was done with this organization. That was your leader for half the season, a guy who was done with your organization. And you're seeing now, as they are above 500 in the last 20-something games, you're seeing now a team that has leadership, even though it's from a rookie. I know we think of leadership as these grizzled veterans that have been around the block a time or two, but when you watch after the game of who's doing the post-game interviews, who's bringing out the Gatorade jugs and splashing, the player of the game, who is orchestrating all of that, who is using the upliftive speech to rally the guys. It's a constant. It's MJ Melendez. It's Bobby Witt Jr. It's these young players. You need to be good in baseball, but you also need to have that mental element, that leadership element, and that swagger element to me to make team success. Individually, you can all be good, but it might not work out if you don't have all those pieces. I want to talk about that more coming up. But first, I want to say right now about our good friends over at Liver Health Formula. Did you know the key to sustainable weight loss is through your liver? The liver is the body's metabolic fusion. The responsibility for flushing out harmful toxins and igniting your fat-burning metabolism is your liver. And thanks to modern diets of rich, unhealthy processed foods and constant exposure to thousands of man-made and environmentally toxin items, it really just overworks your liver. But now you can rejuvenate your liver health and reignite your metabolism thanks to Liver Health Formula by Pure Health Research. Liver Health Formula contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrition facts for you, like turmeric, beet, and artichoke extract, all of which are working together to wake up your sluggish liver, and it turns into a toxin-flushing, fat-burning machine. No more bloated belly, no more uncomfortable digestion, no more feeling tired and low energy all the time. Go right now and boost your liver health with Liver Health Formula. Makes it easier to maintain a healthy body weight long term. As a listener of our show, you can try Liver Health Formula risk-free today. You get a free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Curb Fit is a safe and all-natural appetite suppressant, making it easy to say no to naughty foods. This makes the perfect complement to Liver Health Formula. Go right now to getliverhelp.com/MLB. That's getliverhelp.com/MLB to try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free and claim your free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. That's getliverhelp.com/MLB now to get started. So make sure that you check them out today. It is a Liver Health Formula that you're going to want to get your hands on to help you lose weight and help you just live a healthier lifestyle, like mentioned before, just flushing out that liver, flushing out those harmful toxins, flushing out everything that you do not want in your body. And it's not just about losing weight, It can also be about, of course, digestive pain or feeling tired all the time. The solution can still be for you liver health and liver health formula. So check it out today and go to getliverhelp.com/MLB. You will get a free bottle as well of Curb Fit with your order. So check them out today. That's getliverhelp.com/MLB. We are back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, Rylan Stiles. You can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Stiles. Follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Royals. Email the show, lockedonroyals@gmail.com. And on today's show, we're talking about swagger and confidence in baseball and why that is important. Look, I know that the Royals are 47-66. Like, they are 13 games out of the division. They sit right now 12 and a half games out of a playoff berth. But they're 6-4 in the last 10 games. They're in a 2-game winning streak. And things have started to turn around within the last month or so of Royals baseball. You are getting a brand new version of this team. If you checked out on this team in May, I don't blame you at all. I just don't. If you checked out on this team in May, there's nothing I can say to curb that decision. Because it was yet another year where you thought the Royals would make a step in the right direction, and they came crashing down, and at certain points in this year, of course, had the worst record in the entire major leagues. But now in their last 51 games, they're 26-25. They're an above 500 ball club. And part of why I think that it was okay or appropriate even to check out on this team earlier in the year as a fan is because they weren't playing hard. They didn't look like they cared. They didn't try very hard game in and game out. They weren't fielding well. They weren't taking competitive at-bats. And they also were not, of course, pitching well. They weren't doing a single thing where you could hang your hat on. But I would very much encourage you, if this is your first time getting back into it this season, you've been away long enough, and maybe even you're following the team just via this podcast and not via watching the games, I would encourage you to come back and watch the games again. Because I know that this year is gone in the sense of playoff contention, but I have a really good feeling about this young core that you're going to want to be in on this core. You're going to want to be on the cutting room floor, on the cutting edge, on the grand opening of this team. And I believe that is happening right now this year. It's not going to result in the playoffs, but I believe that you are seeing the seeds get planted of the future of Royals baseball through how MJ Melendez is playing and how Bobby Witt Jr. is playing and Nick Prado and Vinny and how these pitchers are turning around. Brady Singer, Chris Bubich are on massive streaks, 6-7 starts in a row of them putting out either at least quality performances or outright great performances, depending on the start. But they've had at least 7 starts each straight of just quality starts. They are turning things around, and again, the passion is back, the swagger is back, the commitment to at bats is back. And the reason I think that, if you got a viewer, let's say the Dodgers, why on earth would a Dodgers fan ever have watched the Royals this season? They're not in the same division. The Royals don't have national TV games. The Royals have been out of it since the first week of the season. The Dodgers have, themselves in first place of their division in the sense of trying to capture a World Series. The Royals aren't even on the Dodgers' radar. So I bet you there's a large sum of Dodger fans who have not checked in on the Royals yet. And if you force them to watch this weekend, Royals-Dodgers, where they couldn't look at a box score, they couldn't look at a baseball reference page, they couldn't look at Baseball Savant, they couldn't look at fan graphs, they couldn't look at the broadcast, they have to mute the broadcast and turn off all the graphic packages, right? If you just force them to look at the game and not know any of these players' names, the way that these guys compete in the box and take competitive professional at-bats, the way that these guys carry themselves as veterans, even though they're rookies, the way that these guys believe in themselves. You're 13 games out and you're screaming, "This is my house." That takes an obscene amount of confidence. That takes an obscene amount of ego in a good way to still believe in yourself, still believe in your abilities, and still believe that you should be able to say that. And those are things to me that can take this rebuild to the next level and get there faster. Because that 2015 World Series, that buys you a lot of time. But it's getting further and further away in our memory banks. It's getting further and further away. You need to at least start competing again. You need to at least start getting to the playoffs again, because this is how 30-year drought started. I mean, you ask a fan that was in the prime of their fandom in the 80s what they thought after 7 straight years of no playoffs, they told you that they would have had the same sense of, oh, well, it's only been 7 years, and, oh, well, they got these young guys, maybe this can happen. No, you've got to have some urgency. You've got to have some you got to have some fire. Or else it's going to end up the same way it did last time. And the reason I believe that this is heading in the right direction and that the Royals are going to stop this playoff drought sooner than later. Number one, more playoff spots than ever is a big deal. Baseball playoff droughts have always been a bit finicky because, yes, there are some in football and in basketball. The Kings haven't been to the playoffs in 16 years. But in general, you've got to be really incompetent to not make the playoffs in 30 years in a sport like basketball where they take 8 from each side and now they take 10 from each side if you count the play-in. You've got to be really incompetent to do that. In basketball. Seattle, not going there in 21, 22 years. You've got to be really incompetent if you're Seattle to have that happen to you. In those sports, if you had that kind of parameters. But in baseball, yes, have the Mariners made mistakes? Absolutely. Yes, did the Royals make mistakes whenever they didn't get there in 30 years? Absolutely. But of course, it was a more exclusive club back then. Nowadays, you have more playoff spots than ever. That should help you. And I believe that these young guys can get to that level of competitiveness quicker due to their belief in themselves, due to their blissful ignorance. Because they're going to go into next year and they're going to believe in that end of the year run that they're on right now. They're going to go into next year and in surprise Arizona, the big thing is going to be, well, we were X amount of games over 500 whenever you only look at the second half of the season, or whatever marker ends up being the best marker come September, obviously. And they're going to take that and they're going to run with that. Now, are they going to be in the playoffs next year? I don't believe so. But I do believe that next year you can get within 10 games of the postseason, within 7 games of the postseason, 5 games of the postseason. That is your stepping stone. That's your launching off point. And then the following season, if this continues to trend in the right direction and continues to progress the way that I feel it has over the last 50 games, then the following season you should be in the postseason. And that is your launching pad into contention. And I think that the biggest thing for the Royals and the biggest thing for this organization is going to be how long can you keep the window open once you get it open? Because let's remember that last Royals era, and I want to do that coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now, but our good friends over at BlueNile.com, because BlueNile.com is a place you want to be, and you're going to want to check them out. So whether you're ready to pop the question or celebrate a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as they are in the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. BlueNile is a simple online tool that lets you choose diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. BlueNile's bench jewelers are all well crafted, and they just create the perfect engagement ring for her. Each ring is one of a kind. Looking for fine jewelry? Well, if you're having trouble choosing, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat and helping you find that memorable gift at every budget. So make that moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com and go right now. to the Blue Nile anniversary sale. Save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement rings settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in a discreet package that will not give away what's inside. So shop stress-free and find your favorite pieces by going to BlueNile.com today. BlueNile.com is where you want to be. Go check them out today at BlueNile.com. We're back on the Locked On Royals podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Check out Locked On MLB as well for the national landscape of baseball. Now, I want to continue discussing this topic of why it's important that these young guys have confidence, why it's important that these young guys believe that they can snap this playoff drought in a hurry. You look at last go-around, when the 30-year streak was snapped. That was snapped by a bunch of guys who made up what was the best farm system in baseball. There was no dissenting voice on that. In fact, there were pieces written and projections made that was the best farm system ever in the sport. And with all of that praise, with all of those grades, with all of those trades, with all those draft picks, with all those prospects, that entire era of Hosmer, Moustakas, and all those guys, the entire era netted you back 2 postseason appearances. Now, granted, in those appearances, you made the World Series both times, but you only got to the dance twice. And you were only competitive in trying to get to the dance. 2013 competitive, of course, step away. Got there in 2014, got there 2015. 2016, somewhat competitive. We can go back and forth on how competitive they were in 2016. That's it. And yet you had what was considered the best young talent in baseball, the best farm system in baseball, the best in baseball. Well, now you've got the best prospect in baseball in Bobby Witt Jr. You've invested in so many arms, college arms that are supposed to be ready. Where's Asa Lacy right now? All right, so taking a look at history, it took that group that was considered the best prospect, best farm system in baseball. It took that group so long to get ready that their window shut in 2 years. That's why it's very important to get to that window now if you're Kansas City, or as fast as possible. Now, obviously, it can't be this season, and I don't think that you can make up 13 games in one off season whenever you're in a small market like Kansas City. But you could make up 5 or 6, and then make up the rest of it the next off season, right? So that's what I think that this is at. And furthermore, of course, this is all going to be built around Bobby Witt Jr. and MJ Melendez. And if they pan out in our superstars, or even if they're just Eric Hosmer level players who make one All-Star game, they get priced out of Kansas City. They get priced out of Kansas City. So you got 4 years, you've got 5 years of control left for those two guys. After next season, which we don't think will be a playoff year, you got 4 years of control left. You got to start just chrome barring that window open. But I think that these are the guys to do it. I think that they have those leadership qualities, those confidence in themselves and their teammates that can really pick everybody up and get everybody on the same page and get them to playing winning baseball. I think that this is the group to do it, and I think that they're going to make the playoffs within 2 years. I think that that's whenever things are going to start to turn around. Between the young bats coming alive, between the arms turning around already, and we think that there's going to get new leadership in terms of a pitching coach and things of that nature this offseason. All that being said, I think that they can really crack open this contention window within 2 years. And hopefully it'll last a lot longer than the last one did. Let me know what you think on Twitter at Locked On Royals. And until tomorrow, be good and be good to one another.